Director Morgan Pierce had one setting: ice cold. 6 months I'd worked under her, and 6 months she'd been nothing but professional distance. Clipped responses, minimal eye contact, interactions so brief and formal they felt rehearsed. She wasn't mean, she was just absent, like she'd perfected the art of being physically present while emotionally unreachable. I'd learned to accept it. My boss was cold, my work was good, that was enough. Then yesterday, in a conference room reviewing quarterly reports, I reached for the same document she did. Our hands touched. For maybe 2 seconds. She froze completely, pulled her hand back like I'd burned her, stared at me with an expression I'd never seen. Vulnerable, terrified, longing. She stood abruptly, left the meeting without explanation. 20 minutes later, I got a text from an unknown number. "I'm sorry, I can't keep doing this. We need to talk. Alone. Please." When I showed up at her office that evening, she looked at me and said, "I've been cold because every time you're near me, I can barely think straight. And when you touched my hand, I realized I can't pretend anymore." Before we dive into how one accidental touch shattered my boss's 6 months of carefully maintained distance, drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from, and please subscribe to help the channel grow. This story is about walls built from fear, feelings too strong to hide, and learning that sometimes the smallest touch reveals everything someone's been desperately trying to conceal. My name is Riley Chen. I'm 27, and 6 months ago, I joined Apex Consulting as a senior strategist. My direct supervisor, Director Morgan Pierce, had a reputation for being brilliant and impossible to read. "She's like a fortress," my colleague told me during orientation. "Professional, competent, completely impenetrable. Don't expect warmth." That turned out to be accurate. Morgan was 39, striking in a severe way. Sharp features, always perfectly dressed in tailored suits, dark hair pulled back with precision. She ran our division with efficiency and minimal emotion. My first day, she shook my hand, firm, brief, and said, "Welcome to the team. I expect excellent work and professional conduct. Questions?" "No, ma'am." "Good." And that was it. Our entire welcome conversation. Week 1 set the pattern. Morgan communicated through emails, mostly. When she needed to speak to me directly, it was clipped and formal. "The client presentation needs revision. See my notes." No small talk, no pleasantries, just information delivery. "Is she always like this?" I asked another team member. "Always. Been here 3 years, never seen her crack a smile. She's professional to the point of being robotic. Does she have friends outside work?" "No idea. She doesn't share anything personal. We know basically nothing about her life." It was strange but manageable. Morgan gave clear feedback, recognized good work with brief acknowledgments, never played politics. She was cold, but she was fair. Month 2, I started noticing small things. How Morgan would sometimes pause when passing my desk, like she wanted to say something but didn't. How in meetings she'd occasionally glance at me then quickly look away. How her professional distance seemed more deliberate around me than others. "Does Director Pierce seem extra formal with me?" I asked my desk mate. "Morgan's formal with everyone." "I know, but with me it seems more like she's actively avoiding extended interaction." "You're overthinking it. That's just how she is." Maybe, but it felt personal, like she was deliberately maintaining distance specifically from me. Month 3, the pattern intensified. Morgan would hand documents to other team members directly, but leave mine on my desk when I wasn't there. She'd address the whole team in meetings, but route individual questions through other people when possible. She never made eye contact longer than absolutely necessary. "I think Director Pierce doesn't like me," I told my roommate. "Has she said anything negative?" "No, she barely speaks to me at all. That's the problem." "Maybe she's just awkward." "She's not awkward with anyone else. Just me." It bothered me more than it should have. I wanted her approval, her acknowledgement. Instead, I got professional distance so extreme it felt like rejection. Month 4, I stopped trying to engage beyond required interactions. If Morgan wanted distance, fine. I'd focus on my work, which was going well. My projects succeeded. My analyses impressed clients. Everyone seemed pleased with my contributions except the one person whose opinion mattered most. Month 5, something shifted slightly. Morgan had to work directly with me on a major client pitch. 2 weeks of close collaboration, strategy sessions, presentation development, rehearsals. She was professional as always, but I caught moments where she'd seem almost nervous. She'd fumble words occasionally, drop pens. Once, when I leaned over to point at her screen, she went completely rigid. "Are you okay?" I asked. "Fine, perfectly fine." But her voice was tight. We delivered the pitch successfully. The client signed. Morgan sent me an email. "Excellent work on the Morrison account. Your contributions were significant." Formal, professional, distant as ever. "Why can't she just tell me in person?" I muttered. Month 6, yesterday everything changed. We were in a conference room, Morgan, myself, 2 other strategists, reviewing quarterly reports, documents spread across the table. I reached for the financial summary at the same moment Morgan did. Our hands touched. It was nothing. Accidental contact, maybe 2 seconds. But Morgan froze like I'd electrocuted her. Her eyes went wide, fixed on where our hands met. For those 2 seconds, her entire carefully maintained facade cracked. I saw vulnerability, fear, and something that looked like desperate longing. Then she yanked her hand back, stood abruptly, and said, "Excuse me. I need to—" She didn't finish, just left. Middle of the meeting. No explanation. The 3 of us sat stunned. "What just happened?" one colleague asked. "I have no idea," I said. But my heart was racing because that look on her face, that wasn't professional distance. That was feeling. Raw, overwhelming feeling. 20 minutes later, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. "This is Morgan. I'm sorry about the meeting. I can't keep doing this. We need to talk, alone. Please, my office, 6 p.m. if you're willing." I stared at the message, pulse pounding. Showed up at her office at 6 p.m. exactly. The door was open. She was standing by her window, still in her perfect suit but somehow vulnerable. "Close the door," she said quietly. I did. "Morgan, what's going on?" She didn't turn around. "I owe you an explanation. For 6 months of coldness. For today. For all of it." "Okay. I've been maintaining distance deliberately. From the day you started, I've been keeping you at arm's length and you've noticed. I know you have." "Yes. It wasn't because you did anything wrong. It wasn't because I don't value your work. I do, more than anyone's. It was because—" She finally turned, and her expression was completely unguarded. "It was because from your first day, I've been attracted to you. Powerfully, overwhelmingly attracted. And I didn't know how else to handle it." My breath caught. "What? You walked in 6 months ago, and I immediately felt something I haven't felt in years, maybe ever. And I panicked. Because you work for me. Because there are power dynamics and professional ethics. Because I couldn't be the boss who makes her employee uncomfortable. So I built walls. I made myself cold and distant because being warm felt dangerous." "Morgan, let me finish, please." She stepped closer. "I've spent 6 months pretending you don't affect me. Avoiding eye contact because looking at you makes me forget what I'm saying. Keeping physical distance because being near you scrambles my thoughts. Communicating through email because hearing your voice in person makes my chest tight. I thought I could control it. Manage it through distance. And today, when we touched? Today I realized I can't do this anymore. When you touched my hand, accidentally, innocently, it was like 6 months of careful control just shattered. For 2 seconds, all I could think was how much I wanted to hold your hand. Really hold it. Not pull away. And I panicked because that feeling was so strong I couldn't hide it. So I ran. I moved closer. "You've been avoiding me for 6 months because you're attracted to me?" "I've been avoiding you because I'm falling in love with you and I didn't know how to do that ethically. Because every professional instinct says maintaining distance is right. But every other instinct says being close to you is the only thing that matters." Her voice dropped. "When you touched me today, even accidentally, I realized distance isn't protecting either of us. It's just making us both miserable." "You think I'm miserable? Aren't you? 6 months of working for someone who barely acknowledges you, who treats you like you're made of glass or danger. Yes, I admitted. I thought you didn't like me. That I'd done something wrong. You did do something wrong. You walked into my life and made me feel things I swore I'd never feel for a colleague. You were brilliant and kind, and every time you smiled at someone else, I wished you were smiling at me. You made 6 months of professional distance feel like torture. So what are you saying, Morgan? I'm saying I can't do this anymore. The distance, the coldness, the pretending. I'm saying when you touched my hand today, I realized I'd rather risk professional complications than spend another day avoiding you. I'm saying I'm in love with you, and I need to know if there's any chance you feel the same. My heart was hammering. You really couldn't tell? Tell what? That I've been trying for 6 months to get you to notice me. Actually notice me, not just my work. That every time you walked past my desk, I hoped you'd stop. That I volunteered for the Morrison account specifically to work closely with you. That when you touched my hand today, I didn't want you to pull away. Her eyes widened. You felt it too? Morgan, I've been half in love with you since month 2. I just thought it was hopeless because you seemed determined to keep me at a distance. I was. But not because I didn't care. Because I cared too much and didn't know how to handle it. She reached out carefully, took my hand. Deliberately this time, not accidentally. I'm sorry for 6 months of coldness. For making you think I didn't see you. I saw you. I've been seeing you constantly. I just didn't know how to tell you without crossing every professional line. So we crossed them. Together. Carefully. You'd want that? Even after how I've treated you? You didn't treat me badly. You just protected yourself. I understand that. I squeezed her hand. But now we can stop protecting and start being honest. I don't know how to do this. I haven't dated a colleague ever. I don't know the protocols. We figure it out. HR disclosure, clear boundaries, probably me transferring divisions. We do it right. She pulled me closer, and for the first time in 6 months, there was no distance between us. When you touched my hand today, I thought I was going to fall apart right there in the meeting. I noticed. You went completely rigid. Because all I wanted was to hold on, to not let go. And I realized 6 months of distance had accomplished nothing except making me more in love with you. Good thing I'm persistent. Good thing you touched my hand. She kissed me then, soft, careful, 6 months of restrained feeling finally released. When we pulled apart, she was smiling. Actually smiling, something I'd never seen. You smile, I said, amazed. Not at work, not in 6 months. But apparently around you, my control isn't as good as I thought. Your control is terrible. You ran out of a meeting. Because you broke through 6 months of walls with 2 seconds of accidental contact. That's how completely you undo me. We handled everything properly over the following weeks. Full HR disclosure, I transferred to a parallel team under different management. We established clear professional boundaries. At work, we were polite colleagues. After work, we were us, finally able to be close without barriers. Can I tell you something? Morgan said on our first official date 3 weeks later. Always. That hand touch? I think about it constantly. 2 seconds that changed everything. It was an accident. Best accident of my life. Because it forced me to admit what I'd been hiding for 6 months. That I'm completely gone for you and distance wasn't protecting me. It was just keeping me from the person I wanted most. No more distance? Never again. I spent 6 months being cold. I want to spend the rest of my time being warm, with you. Deal. 6 months later, she admitted more. You know what's funny? What? I almost left the company, month 5, because working near you while pretending I didn't feel anything was becoming unbearable. You almost left because of me? Almost left rather than admit how I felt, because I thought distance was professional and honesty was dangerous. Then you touched my hand, and I realized honesty was the only thing that mattered. One accidental touch changed everything. One touch shattered 6 months of carefully constructed walls, best 2 seconds of my life. She pulled me close. No distance, no barriers, just us. I don't ever want to be cold with you again. Good. Because warm looks really good on you. My boss was ice cold for 6 months until I accidentally touched her hand and everything she'd been hiding came pouring out. It was 6 months of painful distance, followed by 2 seconds of contact that changed everything. It was walls built from fear finally crumbling at the smallest, most innocent touch. Would I recommend 6 months of emotional distance? Never. But would I recommend paying attention to what people do when their carefully maintained control finally breaks? Absolutely. Because sometimes one accidental touch reveals everything someone's been desperately trying to hide. And sometimes those 2 seconds are worth 6 months of waiting.